Alright, so let's make a combination lock. I've gone ahead and pulled out the 4 panels that we made in the last episode. And first things first, we are going to make these things into door behaviors. So just click all of them, go to the door behavior from the list here. We're going to make a couple of things here. All of them are not going to have indicators. The opening animation will be on, the closing animation will be off. The message required is going to vary between them, but it's going to follow this format. We're going to split it up with a D1 to stand for digit, dot N1 to stand for, the number 1, and then we're going to call that toggle. All 4 of these are going to have something similar to them, so I will now bring them all out accordingly. Okay, as you can see now, they all have their own toggle depending on their number. So the next thing we're going to add is a button. I want to be able to control this thing with just one button. So we're going to take a little bit of a strange approach here and actually just copy another door out, remove its behaviors. I want to be able to click these things directly to switch them. So we're going to add an indicator to make things clear to the player what they're supposed to do. So let's just shut that down. Shut off all these sliders except for the display interact. That'll just put some text up. If you say the word toggle, then it will basically show up. Let me just test that. You'll see the word toggle appear. We're also going to add, this is just decent form for troubleshooting. I'm going to add an extra numpad asset nearby. This thing's purpose is going to be to stay at a site, so we'll hide it. And we're also going to make it play a sound. We're just going to make it make a generic click when this thing, every time you click the E on that toggle we just saw. So go ahead and change the play on receive message to play on receive message. Basically, we want to set a new message called d1.toggle, i.e. anytime that button gets clicked, it will fire off and make a sound, play the click. Uncheck this. This basically makes it so that the sound can be heard anywhere on the map rather than just in that ring. So this ring is actually pointless. It can be any size. So we got an indicator. I forgot to put a button on it. That would probably help. So add the button behavior. Broadcast range can be that big. It's a little excessive. And we will put d1.toggle. You'll notice this is different than the toggles we put here, and that is intentional. We'll get to that. So now, every time we click the button, you're going to hear that nice little satisfying click. That just lets the player know that they know what they're doing as well. So next up, we need to make a basic logic gate. So a logic gate, this is not a concept I came up with. This is one that CyberDragon, another YouTuber who makes this content, did. The idea is you make an object. We usually use numpads, the two of us. And this thing's entire job is to have gravity. So go ahead and go to the physics option here and give it collisions and gravity. So we want it to fall, and we want to kind of manipulate the gravity in the game to work to our favor. So give it a gravity component, and you're going to want to give it, we'll call this d1.key. Just give it a tag that makes it unique. And the whole thing is, between this thing falling and the floor, we want to put a bunch of solid objects that we can turn on and off based on certain conditions. I like to use these things, which are tiles. They're nice and compact. So fun fact, you can turn anything into a door, including these, and we're going to use doors to make a gate. This is almost verbatim what CyberDragon taught in this video. I will link that in the description because he explains it a lot better. I won't go into it here too much. So what we'll do here is on this thing, we are going to make it into another door behavior. I'm going to remove both those messages and the indicator because that comes by default. Everything looks good there. So all of these things, or rather, we're going to make one message control this. That's going to be the button that we just made, the d1.toggle button. That's this thing right here. So go ahead and position that directly underneath our man here, which I think is, good lord, I can't tell. Yep, okay, looking good. So set this thing a little ways off the ground, about 1 block, and copy it 4 times in its entirety and put it 1 block apart. You're going to want to do that because we need to make sure these guys have space given the current design. Okay, so the trick here is that, so that thing's going to be a solid object, and as soon as we click the toggle, it will fall. Now, you'll notice it falls through every platform. We don't want that to happen. We want it to fall one at a time every time it's clicked. Very easy way to do that. We can still have the same message control all four, but what you're going to do is click the second and fourth, and set there, if you go into the edit logic, this nice thing called the starting state appears. So by default, the other two are closed. We want this one to stay open. What that means is the one message, as soon as you click it, is going to turn off the first and the third and make them like pass-throughable, and the second and fourth will go solid. So what that means is every single time you click the button, it falls to the next layer. Pretty helpful. So the next thing we want to do is, you'll notice as soon as it gets to the bottom, I can click this button until the cows come home, but nothing is going to happen because it's gotten to the end. We want this to be a cyclical system. As soon as it gets to the bottom, it comes back to the top. And the way we're going to do that is by basically using a respawn mechanic. So we're going to put him aside for now. First things first, let's go here to the key and add a health component. What this does is allows us to kill it and reposition it somewhere else. First thing you're going to do, respond to tag instead of destroy on the death event. The respawn tag is going to be d1.key.spawn, let's say. And the death delay is going to be -2. All that means is as soon as you kill it, it immediately goes to its spawn. It doesn't waste any time. The instant death message is going to be d1.key.kill. For those that don't know, these messages can be anything. I'm just organizing them in a way like this so that I know everything that is d1.key is related to the key. It's a good way of navigating your code, otherwise it gets messy. So we set it to hidden. Oh, that's the life bar display, so we don't need to see the life bar in this case. And that's all. So now, every time it gets killed, every time we send this tag here, this message, it will get killed and get sent to something with this tag. So that means we need two components. We need something to kill the key and something to respawn the key to. Let's do the respawn first, because that's the easy one. There's going to be no collisions. We're going to hide it, and it's not going to have any behaviors or anything, and we are just going to give it the d1.key.spawn tag. So now anywhere this thing is exactly where it will respawn to. Just hover him slightly above where he's standing. Easy peasy. The second thing we need to do, go ahead and copy this. Key thing here though, if you copy this, get rid of the tag. You can't have two spawn tags, it will confuse it. We are going to add in a speaker. This is going to be the thing that kills our key. So, speakers are usually just used for flavor text in games. You can see it comes preloaded with a hello and it senses the avatar. What we want it to do is detect a certain tag when basically this thing is now a watchdog. It's waiting to see when does this key show up. So we set d1.key in here, so it's looking for the key now, and that little radius you saw there is basically how big is its search area. Well, you want it to be small in this case. Okay, so another thing, you want the auto hide delay to be 1 or something small. Basically what this means is how often can it send the message. If you click this, if this is set to 5, that means 5 entire seconds have to go by before it will send it again. In other words, your lock's going to break. You want to set it to 1 because it would take around that time for them to do the full cycle. Set it to something smaller is my point there. And everything else looks good. So, oh yeah, the last thing. So once it senses it, you can get it to send a message. And you probably guessed what message we're going to get it to send. Key.kill. In other words, this thing waits at the bottom. As soon as the key gets down here, it will respawn at the top. So let's double check that. We click it once, good. Click it twice, great. 3 times, and poof. Back at the top it goes. That's perfect. Now we have a cyclical system. I can use one button to move this thing between 4 different states. Now we're getting somewhere. Next, we need to actually have something happen every time it follows on one of these levels, which is pretty easy to do. All we're going to do is use speakers. So, copy out one of your speakers here. Get rid of the any tags. Looks like there's no tags. That's good. It's very similar to the one before, still sensing the key But now it's going to send, you'll remember the key that we set back here, or the message for these things was d1.n1.toggle. So now this thing is looking for the key and will move him out when he senses him. As you probably guessed, we got to put it up here. And we're just going to copy that out, so I'll do that real quick. You just got to change it to 2, 3, and 4 respectively. Okay, so now we put one on every layer, sensing 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going top down. Simple as that. So now, I'm going to show you something. This system's not complete yet, but as you see, the number 1 is suddenly out. That's simply because the key up there is hanging out on the 1 platform, so to speak. Now, if I click this button, you're going to notice something happen. It's going to set out 2, but 1 ain't going to go back. That's obviously a problem here. So, here's the way around it. Oh, yeah, see, this thing is not working as intended. So, there's another part to this equation. On every level, 2 things need to happen. The first number needs to stick out, and the previous number needs to stick back in. So, the way we're going to do that is actually, because this is a toggleable bit, you know, like the T1 toggle, all we know is, okay, on the next layer down, for example, number 1 needs to go back in, number 2 needs to come out. What that means is we can actually take all 4 of these, here I'm going to copy them out, and all you got to do is make sure they're in sensing range, put them beside, like right there, and drag them down 1 click. So now, you know, 1 is beside 2, 2 is beside 3, 3 is beside 4, and this guy at the bottom, 4, is going to be beside 1. The last thing you got to do, here we'll show you, so it's almost working, but you'll notice, because he's on the top layer, these guys are set the same. Both these guys are sticking out. Almost perfect. The last thing we got to do is make this guy, by default, instead of being a closed, like the other 3 numbers are, we need to make him an open. Now, if we do that, boom. So if I toggle through these, you should see, it's a little laggy, but sure enough, 1 pops out, 2 pops out, 3 pops out, 4 pops out, and it goes right back. So, the grand total of what we're trying to do here, let's go ahead and stack all of these guys inside, oh my god, inside of this. I'll do that real quick. Just to show you what it's going to look like. Okay, so I've stacked them all up. Now you see he's sitting out. He's made it about a pixel too wide, but it's looking pretty good. He sits out like that, and every time you click him now, he switches to a new number. 1 of the 4, which is exactly what we want to happen. Excellent. So, this is one of the combo locks. Now, right now this is just a pretty decoration. It doesn't do much, but it will be the basis of the next step. So the thing you want to do now is simply copy this out for the number of digits you want. You want to make a 4-digit combination? You're going to need 4 of these things, which is what I'm going to do real quick, so I'll be right back.